Okay, all right, let's jump in. So thanks everybody for coming along this morning. Hopefully you'll get a little bit out of this webinar. It's pretty much based on some of our conversations that we had during the last webinar, and we were discussing some of the issues or some of the things we'd like to see, and we were discussing how we're doing a lot with court forms, etc. And what happened during probably the last month or so is plugging away, working on the court forms and working with Esther and things like that. And I found that she was doing things a little bit differently to me, and I learned some things from her and she learned some things from me. So hopefully some of the things we've learned along the way will be reflected in this webinar. So make sure that you send through your questions and I will try answer them, and also just follow up with me afterwards. Just to explain who I am to those people that don't know, I'm Chris Painter and I'm the person who did create DocAssist originally. We've had a team of developers working on it for quite some time, and I've had probably less to do with the coding and maintaining of DocAssist recently, so I probably don't know everything about it anymore, but I'm a pretty good resource to sort of come to for most DocAssist questions. So usually either myself or Esther will be handling all of the support requests, etc. So yeah, hopefully I know enough to give you guys something to take away from this webinar. So just to let you all know, it's a requirement that I let you know that this webinar is being recorded. So it will be made available after the session on our support site, so you can download it from there. So what I'm going to cover today, obviously I've just done a rough introduction there, but I'm also just going to quickly mention a couple of the new features that are in the new version of DocAssist, which is now available, version 1.2. I will then go through on how we want to share content and automation in between documents, and some of the processes that we use to be able to duplicate content and reuse it. So I'll cover just using an existing document. Then I'll get into how you can copy content between documents, and then also how to use clippings to have the same end result. Okay, so I'll start off with what's new in 1.2. I'm just thinking I might turn off my camera for now, just to try to save a bit of bandwidth, but I'll turn that back on again later, so I'll just turn it off now. Okay, so what's new in 1.2? Probably the biggest change, the notable change, is now that the matter list, when the user clicks on the lookup matters, it now filters the last 20 used matters for that user. So I might just actually demonstrate that for you. I think I'll have to just jump out of presentation mode there. So if I'm creating a new document in DocAssist, and now if I do the matter lookup, you'll see now that it's only showed me the last 2 matters that I've used, because I haven't used that many matters in here. And you'll need to click on the show all button, and that will bring up the existing view. So it's a little bit confusing at the start, because I kind of fell for it myself as I went in, and it's like, where's the matters, and you have to click the show all. But once you start using it, it just shows you your last 20 used matters. It becomes a lot more useful, and it's a quicker and easier way to use it. So that's probably the biggest change that end users would notice. Other changes that are included in 1.2 is we now have the ability to use the write back feature and call it via VBA. And how that feature's come about is because of some of the integrations that we've been doing recently, in particular with Affinity and Practice Evolve. And it's allowed us to be able to pass the matter details through to the document and then have the DocAssist automation continue the process of automating documents. If you have a look in the release notes for 1.2, we actually have some sample code and how we did that there. You'll see that it writes the matter number to the document and then calls DocAssist and can trigger the write back as well. So yeah, it's a really great feature and has allowed us to do some clever trickery behind the scenes. The other improvement as well is for the use of substrings that are using values from other content controls. This has actually come about from automating the court forms, etc. So it's in particular where we want to have a date control and split out the dates, so you have got a separate the first digit of the day and the first digit of the month, and et cetera, et cetera. So we did have some substring functionality in DocAssist, but we've extended that and made it a lot more powerful. So that's also available as another tool in our arsenal as well. And again, details on that are included in the release notes. And apart from that, just all the general bug fixes and improvements to the product. So if you can, download the latest version and give it a try, and yeah, send us through your feedback, of course. Okay, so apart from that, I'll just jump in and show you some of the things that we have been doing with regards to sharing content between documents. And I'll probably give you the pros and cons, and probably have a few bits that explain why we do some things some ways and what doesn't work as well. So the first option is the case where we just use an existing document. So the great advantage of this particular method is everything's already set up and done for you, but obviously the disadvantage is you have to have a document already set up. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just use the letter template that we have set up, and this is the letter template that comes from our demo environment. So probably the easiest way to do it is you can just right click on the document if it's in a file space like that, and you can just click on new, and that's going to create a new document. The other way to do that too is if I just double click on it, and obviously opens the document. So that's opening now. If you need to reuse that document, what you can do is just hit the test document button, and that creates a new copy of that button and brings across obviously everything that's built into that document. So you can see I've got the prompt pane already pre-configured, and this is just a whole new copy of the documents, which you can then just do a save as, save that to wherever you need. As usual, my typing's terrible. And so there I have that fundamental document already. And so now I can just start adding the additional content that I wanted to add into that document. This is a metaphor, and then I can add a content control, etc., with content in it. And obviously I would just save that document as it is. Pretty simple because it's obviously just a letter document, and you could create multiple precedents based on that and add whatever content that you like in there. All pretty boring, and you're probably already doing those sorts of things, but I just wanted to point that out just in case you hadn't realized that it's a good way to start from another copy of a document, because it brings everything in automatically for you and clears out a lot of the stuff as well. So that's use case number one, and I'll just close that document. Okay, the next option is using the copy and paste. So the problem with copy and paste just built into Word is that it's not going to copy all the additional information that DocAssist requires. So there's a lot of stuff hidden away inside the document that's additional content. So in that particular case, we've now set up a copy and paste option that's part of DocAssist. So I'm just going to close these documents as well. Okay, so that's just a blank document there. Okay, so I'm just going to create another letter again. So again, this is just a blank letter document, and I will also create a new blank document. So now switch back to my letter document. I'm just going to borrow the content from the top of this document. So I'm just going to borrow that first part there. So if I just do a normal Control-C, and go into Word and do a Control-V, if you have a look, none of the automation will have been enabled. So now if I go to DocAssist, turn on the pane, you'll see that the controls like the addressee, it's just a straight normal text control. It's not the lookup that we're expecting. Salutation, it's just the normal drop down, etc. So none of that stuff works, and the prompt pane won't be configured. So if now I close this document, I'll create another blank document. Oops. So Control N for another blank document. switch back to my letter document and then select this first part of the content. And so this feature has been in DocAssist from 1.0.1013 was the version number I think that came into. So now if I select on the copy here, DocAssist will record all the additional information that's required for that, for those particular options. So now if I then paste this into the document, and I have to use the DocAssist paste option. So now if I turn the pane on, I will have everything already pre-configured. Actually, that's right, I won't have the pane configured, but all the other controls will be configured and will work as required. So if I choose the privacy option, it's just a drop down, the delivery options. So there, the delivery options is the best one to show. So because it's got all the options, it's a select paragraph that's in the document. So again, if I choose these options, now they will work. If I did that in that other document where I'd done the copy paste, because it hasn't brought over all that content that's behind the scenes, all these options wouldn't have worked. And you can see here the index syncing is working. So if I actually edit the configuration of the file, you see it's brought across the settings that are related to the controls that are in the document. What you will notice though is it doesn't copy across the prompt pane. So the configuration of the prompt pane is separate to that as well. Okay, so I'll just close that document as well. So that's just a simple way to be able to copy content in between documents. It's going to work with pretty much anything that you can do in DocAssist, and I'll do a demonstration towards the end where we've got a more complicated document and bring pieces of that across. I just want to keep it as simple as possible as we run through the document the first way around. So as I mentioned, the disadvantage there is it doesn't bring across the prompt pane. So another way that we can do get the same end result as well is I'll just use the letter document and I'll just take this top part of the document, and what I can do, see if I get all my controls out of the way. On the Insert tab, I can actually save it as a clipping. So then what we can do is we can choose a particular location, and so I can just put sample letter top, and I could just save that into, I can make that a shared location that is shareable for people in precedents who are the editors, etc. And if I click on save, that now creates a clipping that will have all that content in. So again, if I do a Control N and go to a new document, what I can do is I can then browse through the clippings. I can go to anything that I've set up. So I've now set up the sample letter top. Preview will load. And today it decides to be slow for me. And so now I can insert that content in the document, and it will mean that all the options such as the delivery options there will all work and will synchronize correctly. So again, exactly the same as the copy paste. So the copy paste routine that's behind these buttons is exactly the same as what's happening inside the clipping. So it's calling the same routine. So it means all of that automation will just come through and just work in those documents. Obviously, the advantage of using the clippings, it means we can share the content between multiple users, and you can build up your documents very quickly using all the different pieces that you've set up. Another way that I found that Esther was doing it is she actually created a master document that had all the bits and pieces in the document for her, and then she was just selecting those blocks and then just using the DocAssist copy and paste. So it's really what suits your workflow is probably the best way to go. I personally have been using the clippings. I find that works for me because it's keeping all the documents as separate little files, and it's much easier to share and then insert in the document. Like I said, I was going to race through this, and that covers pretty much most of the topics I was going to cover. But what I'll do is I'll just show you how it works with a more complicated document. And this sort of ties in back to what we were talking about during the previous webinar, and bringing across more complicated content. So again, here we have an ASIC form, and if I wanted to just take pieces of this document, I can actually just select blocks of them. So I might want to have that piece of the document, and then I can save that as a clipping, Or again, I can just do copy paste, exactly the same routine. So if I'll just create a new blank document. I can then switch back to my precedent there. Actually, what I'll do is I will select this option here. So this one's a nice big nested routine. I'll come in and do a copy, switch to my other document, and then I can paste that in. So you'll see that the layout and the margins are a little bit different because I'm not using the same style set, and I haven't copied that across. But now if I turn on the DocAssist pane, I should then be able to select the options in this content control. And as usual, it will make a liar of me. I'll just reinitialize DocAssist there. So it's picking those ones up. There we go. As always, we do all the demonstrations and it never quite goes to plan. So I'm just going to delete this control. We like to have a problem along the way, and then hopefully I can fix that as we go. So I'm just going to select this control again. So let's write a bit extra to this one. So I'm just going to copy that one, come across into this document. There we go. Okay, so now when I select that content control, it should allow me to choose the different options. So the way that, because I know the way this document's set up, so this has actually got one of the features that I was talking about earlier in the 1.2 release. So we actually have a content control that's hidden away down in here, which has got the full date control, and that was what we exposed on the prompt pane, but then that allowed the users to populate these individual values. So these, if I go into here, choose a date, and then move out of that control. Yeah, I'm having one of those days, that's for sure. So that would populate the values of those dates because that's using the substring values. So that's the whole theory, and that should work. And as usual, I've managed to kick myself in the foot. So now, again, so if I then choose the other option, you can see here the date values have moved up there. So each option that I'm selecting here is choosing a different option. So it's brought across all the values for those, and all the automation should magically work. So if I now choose that last option, you can see it switched down here and put the controls in to this option down the bottom there. Okay, so that was probably most of the stuff that I was going to cover. Like I said, it was a bit of a rocket ride. We've done in about 20 minutes. Was there any questions, etc., that anybody had in covering most of that? I'll just turn on my screen, my camera. Oops. And I might just stop sharing my screen as well so I can get back my GoToMeeting. And oh, Gary's come back on. I'm just trying to find where the chat is in here. Gary, did you happen to see if there was anything in the chat at all? Ah, there we go.
I'm doing that right now. Madeline's asked 2 questions. Did you find it?
2 questions, yes. It doesn't bring the groups across. Oh, interestingly, I did have a look at the some of the functionality that was behind there, so it should bring across the groups. So I'll investigate that and get back to you. So yes, that's right. You can copy the stuff across from the config file manually. So just probably explaining that to people as well. So what I'll do is I'll just reshare my screen. Okay. I'll share that again. So I'll just continue to use this document. Okay, so if we added a group in here, then create. And so we're saying if we've copied that to a new one, and he's saying it wasn't bringing the groups across. Okay, so you can see here, Maddie, that it's actually brought across the group name there, so that should come across. So that's probably something that's been fixed in version 1.2. So it now brings across the groups with you, so they should work if it's part of a repeater. So interesting, I was actually having a look at the code behind the scenes, and I did see that it was doing something with the groups. So I'd say that that's obviously something that has been fixed in the latest. Again, from Maddie, copy and paste tables, the border preference doesn't stick. Okay, I haven't seen that reported. Just read that. Yeah, I might just follow that up with you separately, and then I'll get back to everybody, probably a follow-up either in the next webinar or even an email out with the results, because I think I know what setting you're talking about, and it doesn't come across when you do a copy-paste anyway, but I just need to check whether that's the same setting that I'm thinking of, because yes, it wouldn't come across with a copy-paste. Yep. Does this work with custom repeaters? Yes, it should do. The only issue that we've currently got is sometimes if we've got stuff that's heavily nested, the full nesting of the controls hasn't come across, so that's just being investigated at the moment. So we should have a patch or a fix available for that very soon. But other than that, most things should come across. Was there any other questions from anybody? Feel free to jump in if you want. As a verbal. All right, well, I think that's a world record short webinar. That's what you get when you get an amateur doing the process. I'll just turn off my sharing again. So the other thing too is if you want to get in touch with either myself or Gary, just shoot us an email. Obviously, we're looking for topics to talk about, etc. I will be starting to do more of these webinars, so hopefully they'll be better from now on, in respect to better than my one today, because this is probably poor performance. Yeah, so yeah, make sure you send out any information or questions that you may have following this. We'll send out the web link to it afterwards. Also, if I was just chatting with Maddie before this, and she's saying how she's working on some court forms at the moment, so I was going to arrange a session with her directly, but if anybody's working on something that's complicated at the moment and you think that there's things in DocAssist that could be done better, or things that need to be done, just get in touch with me or Gary, and we'll arrange to just do a remote session to have a look at anything that you're going through and see if we can work out a better way to do it. And then also look at things that may need to get rolled into DocAssist that help improve the product from a, particularly an editor's perspective. I have a list of things that I want to get in there sooner rather than later to help us manage the content and bring it across. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities for improvement, and we want to make the most of those. So yeah, looking for feedback. Gary, was there anything you wanted to add at all?
No, not really. I think you can cover that, whatever what's happening. Just that you touched on it earlier, we've done some integrations lately, which probably doesn't talk to many people online here today, but we've done some other integrations with some other practice management systems and so forth. So the product's growing in some functionality for Practice Evolve was one of them. We're now launching, and I think Sharon's been online, so we're launching Affinity documents, precedents out of Affinity in Australia and DocAssist, which was new for us. So if you've got any ideas, as Chris mentioned, that is something you've thought of or you want, let us know. We're also talking to a number of other firms at the moment with some different ideas. So the idea here is to fill you in on information that comes in from some other ideas we're getting at different places as well, which products may get a bit more feature rich from and so forth. So that was all I want to say. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there, and hopefully look forward to seeing everybody next time. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris and Gary.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
That doesn't let me leave. I don't even know how to leave. I'm pushing leave and it's telling me I'm not allowed to leave.
You just have to stick around.
Yeah. I found it. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.